appreciate your response, that you spend the money that Congress appropriates to you. Yes, the administration produced a budget. I didn't like everything that was in that budget either, but that's a step higher than what this House did when we produced no budget at all this year. There's no vision of what we're going to do this year, next year, the year after that. No long-term vision of any kind. We have one responsibility on the Budget Committee in which I sit, and we could not fulfill it. So knowing you were going to take shots, the administration still put forward a budget, and I'm grateful to you for doing that. You know, we last month had a court decision in the Southern District of Georgia, case that Georgia led, dealing with the overreach of the WOTUS rule. And in that decision, the court said this, along the lines of what you said this morning. Congress has delegated the important role of protecting the nation's waters to the agencies, but in fulfilling that role, the agencies must comply with the law. All you can do is deal with the law that's in front of you, and they have failed to do just that. And the court went on to say that they were going to block any rule from going into effect as the agencies continue their efforts to change the WOTUS rule in light of the serious defects identified in the order. We need that clarity. I'll put Georgia's environmental stewardship second to none. I'm sorry to hear of other states that don't value their state's leadership. I do value our state's leadership. And I understand that you're trying to provide clarity in these revisions of the WOTUS rule. I actually value certainty even more. Clearly, the Obama administration was trying to provide certainty in 2015, and clearly they failed as that litigation continues. Can you talk a little bit about, as we go on to step two, what my expectations and the constituents' expectations should be around certainty?
Well, yeah, that is one of our core principles as we're taking a look at the new proposed definition. Rather than just trying to fix around the margins, we started over. So we tried to get to a simple number of categories of what's in, and then a very clear definition of what's out. And the number one exemption is if it's not in, it's out. And so simplicity, clarity, certainty are some of the hallmarks of what we're going after. You know, there's some questions about, you know, how, you know, we use the typical year construct for determining jurisdiction over adjacent wetlands. Got a lot of good public comments on that we're taking into account. We're working with our legal and our scientific and our policy teams to take a look at that. So we've got a little bit of work to do before we finalize it, but certainty, clarity is really our hallmark. In this space, perfection is a lofty goal, but our, you know, improving and answering this once and for all, so that we have certainty, so that the courts stop changing the goalpost and we actually have a federal rule that we can implement, that we know, as Justice Kennedy said in a concurring opinion in 2016, you know, that he's concerned about the ominous reach of the Clean Water Act. We should not have Supreme Court justices saying that in concurring opinions.
I appreciate your pointing that out. I'm perfectly prepared to disagree with the administration about line item after line item after line item. But I'm also prepared to disagree with the courts along those lines. Our job is to write those laws. Your job is to implement those laws, and the court's role has been overblown in recent years, and I blame the Congress for many of those failures. Madam Chair, could I ask unanimous consent that we put the court case that I've referenced out of the Southern District of Georgia? It's State of Georgia v. Wheeler. Thank you, Madam Chair. I regret that you're not going to be here after the second panel testifies, because I suspect we're going to hear some concerns that you have very rapid responses to, and the timing won't be there. But I would tell you that as I see you're narrowing the scope of the enforcement responsibilities to comply within the four corners of the law, I expect you to be able to do a better job with equal resources or more resources as you narrow that focus on which the agency is targeting. And I would call that targeting an effort to serve my constituency even better and hold the nation to a higher standard on clean water generally. Is that, as you've seen it from the inside looking out, is that a fair characterization? I reject the notion that anybody's dismantling anything. It seems to me from the outside looking in that you're trying to target focus and do better at what we all have tasked you with doing?
That is our theory, that you know, we focus on the waters that matter. The way the construct of the Clean Water Act, it's actually a well-written statute generally, other than maybe one definition that could have used some additional clarity. But the overall construct for the nation's waters versus the navigable waters, the federal government protects the core navigable waters, and the states have sufficient and are provided resources by Congress to help do other waters in the watershed. And it's a partnership between the states and federal government. We recognize that.
I thank you for your service to the country. I thank you for being here today. I yield back, Madam Chair.